All right. Hello, this is Aaron with Chiron's Cave,
Hello, this is Susan.
and we're back for another episode. And it's July 25th at 12:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I believe right now that pretty much the moon and Mercury are conjunct.
Yeah, it looks like moon's at 14 degrees and Mercury's retrograde at 13. So yeah, it just
So it's already
made
passed.
connection. Yeah, they just made contact.
Right. So and Mercury's been playing tricks for me this morning. And so I have a story to tell relating to that. So
Cool.
I'll just jump right into this story. So it has to do with parenting.
Mm.
So I have two sons,
Mm-hmm.
and my youngest is just turned 12.
Mm-hmm.
And so this story is about him and his Taurian / mercurial behavior, unleashing a torrent of synchronicities this morning.
Really?
Yes. I don't know. That's why I want to talk to you about it and just tell the story. It's just one of those stories that, with synchronicities that's just, I don't even know what it all means, but it means something.
Yeah.
So our constant struggle with him is food, because he's extreme. He's this, stereotypical Taurian when it comes to what he will and will not eat.
Mm-hmm.
Just, he's very picky.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a thing since day one. He came into the world that way. And so anyways, as the cynics /
And you have Pluto in your fifth house.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good
house,
point. Yeah, which I've been thinking about here off and on, because kids in Pluto, and that's like, man, that's not really in Libra too, which definitely factors into the story, because I'm like, because I'm dad, right? So I have to be the cynics. I have to be the authoritarian, the Cronus Saturnian figure to them, because that's my job as the father. Right? I mean, that's the archetype of the father, is like a big part of that is Kronos, Saturn.
Yeah.
Teaching limits and responsibilities and, material reality and like consequences.
Yeah.
That's all Saturnian, so like I can be resentful at times, especially with him, because it's like constant. I have to like constantly be the Saturn figure for him. And it's like pissing uphill, or pissing into the wind. It feels like so much for me. So anyway, so last night, because I've told them, 8 o'clock, the kitchen's closed. 8 p.m. Like, you don't need to be eating past 8 p.m. Especially not because you've been playing video games all day long, and you now everyone's going to bed, and now you realize you're hungry because you haven't unplugged once for 15 hours. And now it's time to eat. No, it's not. It's like, that's Saturn, right? And no, you need to eat before the kitchen's closed. So we had a whole kerfuffle about that last night. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to bed, and they're both trying to eat. So they're both coming in the kitchen trying to cook, and I'm like, look, 8 o'clock, the kitchen's closed. So Harper, that's my 12-year-old. He loves ramen. He'll eat it. And I long ago gave up. I was just like, whatever, just eat. Whatever you're going to eat, like, just fine. I'm not cooking so many meals and then they not get eaten. And then it's like over and over and over, like, for years. I just finally, here about last year or so, just like, you just make your own food and eat it. Like, just, 1, clean up your mess. 2, don't waste any food. Those are basically the two rules that I'm like Saturn about. Right. And that's not a whole lot. So anyways, he ends up overcooking the noodles because he's too busy on his phone. Like, he's got his noodles on the stove and he's on his phone watching YouTube shorts. So,
man, can I just say too, South Node Mars in Virgo this past week, you're telling my story. You're telling my life. Yeah. But so I can relate. Yeah. And I think the technical, and even in the nodes, like when you're talking about they're in their head, like being in technology is being so much in your head in some ways, even though the South Node is there, but it's like that Rahu image of the head without a body. And then when they come off of it, they realize that they actually have a body and they need to put food in it, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And so, yeah, but I'm tracking. I'm following. Yeah.
Yeah. And their K2 belly isn't full anymore because it's shattered out already.
Right.
And can't replenish itself because its disembodied head is Rahu.
Yeah. The separation is stark between the two, between the belly and the head. And then so he's like trying to make his noodles, but he also is like still on his device. Am I understanding that right?
He gets his noodles on. Yeah, he gets them on the stove boiling, and then he goes and sits down and gets on YouTube and he's watching YouTube shorts. Well, ramen takes like, with boiling water, like you don't even have to cook it. Like prisoners make shit with ramen all the time. They just it's pre-cooked. They've already been fried, right? I mean, ramen is shit food, but like whatever. If he's gonna eat it, it's calories. He'll eat it. Like I don't need to go all into that like backstory. Right. Like, why am I letting my kid eat ramen? Well, because it's better than not eating. You know what I mean? And that's how bad this is.
Yeah,
it has been. So, I last night, about 8 o'clock, I'm like, I'm gonna go lay in bed and read, and then go to bed after I'm done reading, because I'm like, that's sometimes I'll do that. Well, you give them an inch, they take a mile, right? So I go in there, I'm laying in bed, and I hear them in the kitchen. I'm like, I don't even want to deal with it. Just whatever. It's summertime. Like I don't even want to deal with it. Just let them. Well, I hear the stove I kick on like 5 times, 6, 7 times. I'm like, what is going on in there? Like, why is this stove we have a gas stove, right? Why is this stove getting kicked on and off?
You're trying to practice detachment in your home with the South Node and Mars.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're trying. You were trying hard.
I was giving it to him, man. I'm like, okay, whatever. You guys are breaking the rules. I'm like, right now, I'm not going to down this hill. I don't care. I'm trying to read my book and then go to bed. I just, whatever. Like, it's summertime. Just eat your noodles, like, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, this morning, he leaves dishes in the sink from cooking the ramen. And it's like, so I have to wake up and deal with this, because now I'm like, my dilemma is, because they're both still sleeping. I'm like, I can't. I just don't want to deal with this shit right now. It's like, but it's such a small, dumb thing, right? And I'm Virgo stellium, so like I know I go ape shit with the Virgo, and I try to work with that too. But also, I got to be the
order.
father.
There's got to be order.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's no order, and then like that's not good for anybody.
Right.
So I'm like, having to come apart this morning, because I'm like, God damn, just one pot. Like you obviously you cleaned your bowl. What? So you're at the sink washing your bowl, and your pot's in the sink, and like you just leave the pot like with noodles in it and shit. Like now they're all stuck all of it, and I gotta So I'm this morning. I'm like, I bitching to Wendy about it, and she goes to work. I'm like, I don't even want to deal with this right now. I'm trying to cook my breakfast. I don't like cooking in a kitchen when there's dishes it needs to be clean. That's just how I am. You're preparing your food, it needs to be in a clean kitchen.
Yeah. So
I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to do this pot. I'll just give him a pass. I'll just wash it, whatever. And then the water's not draining right. I'm like, what is going on? So like I have this little squeegee. I'll squeegee the sink out because all the food bits and shit, and I'll squeegee them down the sink. Well, I was kind of pushing with it to help get some of this shit, some of these noodles down, because they got stuck on the rubber.
Yeah.
And I feel some resistance. I'm like, what the hell? And I stick my hand down there, and there's like, the sink is full of noodles. Like, full of
The reason
noodles.
You heard the oven 7 times was because he tried it 7 times.
Because he overcooked them.
Yeah.
And his taurine ass ain't going to eat overcooked noodles.
Nah, they got to be right.
So add insult to injury, we have chickens. So like whenever there's food we're not going to eat for whatever reason, it's been in the fridge too long, like whatever. It's just not like, or Harper cooks some food and doesn't want to eat it because he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Okay, at least the chickens can eat it, right? Because I'm all about not wasting. I don't like wasting food, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So here's these noodles. They're just like, the sinkhole is literally, the water's not draining right, which is kind of why I was on to it to begin with. I wasn't trying to find these fucking noodles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really would rather have not. So I'm like, what is it? And I stick my hand down there, and it's like full. I start pulling noodles out, and I'll put the picture up like in editing of the sink with all the noodles that I pulled out.
Yeah.
Because it'll be funny. That's to add to the story,
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, oh my God. Like, okay, now I can't. I've given all these passes. The reason I found this was because I was given a pass to begin with to do this pot. And now here I am. And now it's like, I can't give a pass anymore. Because it's like, I'm not doing my job now. like,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
and oh my God, Mars is about to hit your Saturn, and and Mercury, which is ruling the South Node, Mars, in the Ketu Mars conjunction that just happened. It's also ruled by Mercury, and Mercury's retrograde. So yeah, your dad issues, your home, your like the order in your
fourth
home
house too.
is
It's a
under
fourth house stellium Virgo, right?
Yeah, so everything's under siege, and you're like, I have to be the dad now. I have to put the yeah.
Usually it's like I just do that,
Right.
and I never even, it's just relentless, right? And
Huh.
but just for whatever reason this morning, I just was like, I can't right now.
Well,
I don't want to deal with this shit.
some of that. You were letting go of some of that control,
Trying.
or like, yeah.
So then Harper gets up and he comes into the kitchen and he's like, "Hey, good morning." And I'm like, "Here we go. Let's see." And of course, let's see if it is on. So I'm like, "So, do you want to just come out and fess up with it, or are we gonna have to? Is this gonna have to be an interrogation and you're gonna lie to me and get in more trouble, or you just want to tell me like what it is you need to tell me?" And this is like wheels spinning. Like, what's Dad know? He's like, "Oh, is it the noodles I left on the stove?" I was like, "You didn't leave noodles on the stove." And it's like, so finally, like, I get it out of him after a few lies trying to cover it up, And so I'm trying to figure out, all right, what's the consequences going to be? And so we're sitting at the table and I'm like talking to him and I'm trying to get him to understand the gravity. And I was like, so, because eventually I was like, all right, you just lost screens for a week. That's what we're doing here. You're not you don't get your cell phone, you don't get your video games, you don't get TV. You're done for a week, no screens, because that's like, that hurts the most for them. And these issues are over and over and over again. And it may sound brutal.
Some of them come from the distraction and the right.
He's back to the screen
devices. Yeah, right.
And then forget
so
about
it's a healthy consequence, even if it seems harsh to them.
Yeah,
it's probably the healthiest thing for them, which I can again relate to 1,000%. Yeah.
Well, because so for us, right, we would have gotten grounded, maybe not for something that's stupid, but it's like, you understand, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of this kind of shit happens all the time. There's a lot of like progressions of punishments, like for years going on before all this, like. Yeah. You're just getting the story, but not all.
It's part
not
of the
all
discipline,
that.
Right? But there's a whole, there's a story of discipline behind it all. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to get him. So yeah, I was like, that's you're gonna lost your screens for a week. What I was kind of saying before is, for us, we would get grounded. That would mean like you're grounded. You're in your room, which really the punishment there is you can't go out and hang and play with your friends or hang out with your friends. You know what I mean? Well, now when you take their screens away, you're taking their friends away. Right, because that's how they hang out with their friends now. They game with them, all of them. That's just what they do, all of them. It's all on the screens.
Yeah,
what they want, what they prefer. And of course, as parents, we're like, oh, sweet, they're in their room, safe, not getting in any trouble. So that's what's so pernicious about this particular moment in time with technology and kids and parenting, because like we're so apt to be like, oh, great, we don't have to worry about them and they're happy. But it's like, but what is the consequence? Anyway, that's kind of another issue.
No, but I relate to it and completely, and I want to come back and share something with you about that. But I'll do it later. Yeah.
Put a pin in it, because I hadn't even got to the good stuff yet. The astrology. So this goes into astrology big time. Like in the ways that the synchronicities to me are just like, wow. So here, and we're at that point. So I'm like, all right. So I was like, how long do you think it would have took you to wash that pot that you left in the sink, right? Because that's how I found you out, right? If you hadn't left that pot, I wouldn't have. Well, I might have still been like, water's not draining right. What the hell's going on? I may have still found it, but
like throw the noodles in the trash can, little dude.
put them in the chicken bowl. So because we have a bowl in the house with a lid that we put the food in that we're not going to compost.
Right.
We're not composting. The
chickens could have had it.
It's good chicken food, right? So there's a chicken bowl. So we have a compost situation where we put our food. We're composting because it's food like onion peels and shit the chickens aren't going to eat. And then food the chickens will eat goes in another bowl. And we take that out to them every day. Right. Well, he didn't put the noodles in the chicken bowl, right? Because Dad will find out. Because Dad will find out, what are all these noodles doing in the chicken bowl? Why is there 2 packs of ramen in the chicken bowl? right now.
Right.
When I know last night we had an issue with them in the kitchen cooking at 9 o'clock. Stove I cooking on and off and on and off. And I eventually had to get up and go in there and be like, what's the rule, guys? Like 9 o'clock, the kids, they're both in there trying to cook dinner at 9 o'clock. So we had a whole thing last night related to all this, right? So I'm like, okay, I was like, Harper, how much time? 2 minutes, right? Would you agree? Like 2 minutes. It would take you 2 minutes to clean this pot. You cleaned your bowl. Like, why didn't you clean? Oh no, I don't have an excuse. Yeah, well, you're damn right you don't have an excuse. And I was just like, so let me see if I can get this kid to understand. So I was like, all right, there's 60 minutes in an hour, right? Because I just told him you lost screens for a whole 7 days, right? I'm like, so there's 60 minutes in an hour. There's 24 hours in a day. That's 1,440 minutes. And then I multiplied it times 7, right? And that's 10,080 minutes in a week. Okay. That's a full 24-hour cycle. So 4 or 7 complete diurnal rotations of the earth. And I'm like, and he's like, and then he's like, oh man. I was like, yeah, 2 minutes. And now you're paying for 2 minutes with 10,078 minutes because you couldn't take 2 minutes. Right.
I just want to thank you for illustrating what Saturn in the 4th house in Virgo is really all about. Like,
that's awesome,
seriously. Right? Yeah.
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 Yeah. So
yes. He's like, huh?
Yeah. He's like, kind of like, wow. Yeah. Dad's got a point. I'm like, yeah, Dad's got a point. I always got a point. You need to listen.
Because I'm
the cynics. I'm the cynics here. Right.
Yeah.
So then he's like, well, divide that by 2. And I'm like, divide it by why? What do you want me to divide this by 2 for? Well, then I can know like how much more times the time is from the time that I would have took. And I was like, okay, yeah, you got a point. Because like if they would have spent 2 minutes, then half of 10,080. So it's 2 times the 2 minutes in the amount of punishment he's right. So it's like, okay, I'll divide. So I divide 10,080 by 2. What pops out? 5,040. And I'm like, I know this number. Why do I know? I was like, this is related to the sun. No, this is related to the moon and the earth. 5,040. And I was like, I know. And I hop up and I run into here and I grab my book. Right. And I look, and sure enough, if you draw down the moon, right, and this is encoded in the pyramid, this is like esoterica, like big time, right? So if you draw the moon down, so that means if you took the moon, right, the sphere of the moon, and you set it right on top of the earth, okay, and then you from the radius of the moon plus the radius of the earth is 5,040 miles.
Wow. Huh.
And I'm like,
holy shit.
But I got to this number right through time of minutes. All I did was 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, 7 days equals 10,080. Half of that is 5,040. Well, a radius is half the diameter of something. So it's half the diameter of the moon, half the diameter of the earth added together, which is also factorial 7. So 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 equals 5,040. So I'm sitting at the kitchen table like, what is happening right now? Like, what does this clusterfuck of noodles have to do with the goddamn radius of the earth and the moon, drawing the moon down, and the pyramids, and like this astronomical mystery of the universe? Like, what is going on with this right now? I'm like, well, Mercury's retrograde.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, well, I was like, so I start talking, because I'll talk to the kids about astrology sometimes whenever I can feel like I can weave it in there and maybe they'll be interested or whatever, right? So I start looking at Harper's chart with him at the table, right? And he is a Virgo rising, okay? And the moon is conjunct his ascendant. It's like 5 degrees away in the first house. So Virgo rising, right? Moon conjunct in Virgo, okay? Gemini, he has MC, Mercury, Chiron, Venus, Jupiter, all in Gemini, all in the 10th house. So this kid is straight Mercury incarnate, pretty much. Like you got to put the other couple planets in the Virgo or Gemini to make him more mercurial, right?
Right. I mean,
he's, his sun, and then his sun in Mars is like 28, 27 degrees. They're tightly conjunct in Taurus, so they're right there at Gemini. So he's damn near just straight up Mercury incarnate.
Yeah.
So, and then I notice, I'm like looking, I'm like, oh wow, because I knew he was mercurial like that, right? I knew that. I knew he was Virgo rising. I knew, all his stellium and Gemini. Like I knew all that. What I didn't know was this is unbelievable. This right here, I was just like, I cannot. This is Mercury retrograde right now, downloading information into me. How in the hell I never noticed this? I don't know. His Mercury is 8 degrees, 19 minutes of Gemini. My ascendant is 8 degrees, 19 minutes of Gemini.
Huh. Wow.
It is an exact conjunction.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
And then I saw his Uranus is 11 degrees, 11 minutes of it's not Aquarius. What is it? Yeah, his Uranus is 11 degrees, 11 minutes. And I was like, what in the hell? Oh, yeah, 11 degrees, 11 minutes, Aries. My moon is 10 degrees Aries.
Yeah, yeah.
So his Uranus is conjunct my moon.
Yeah, your synastry.
In the 8th house.
Right.
His Uranus is 8. His Taurus is, Aries is 8th house for him.
So it falls in, your moon falls in his 8th. That's some crazy synastry. Really crazy.
The Virgo ascendant that he has, right, is his moon is 17 degrees Virgo and his ascendant is 9 degrees, 41 minutes Virgo, right?
Yeah.
My Jupiter is conjunct his ascendant. Almost exact. It may be exact. I'd have to look. Let me look. Where's my, my Jupiter's 9 degrees 4 minutes of Virgo, 9 degrees 4 minutes, and his ascendant is 9 degrees 41 minutes.
Wow, so really, really close there too.
But then I have Mars and Saturn in Virgo.
Yeah, wow, and it's interesting because with the South Node in Virgo and having just made that conjunction with Mars, there's a lot of Virgo overlap. Like your whole story was so 4th house Virgo, but then the fact that his ascendant is there as well, that he's tied up in the nodal transit with his 1st house, and South Node moving through the 1st as it's aspecting all of your 4th house planets. So there's something really strong and karmic too, maybe, or something like regarding you and him. I mean, I think the family synastry is really interesting with that too, and the patterning. And I mean, you guys have it so exact, but that if he isn't somewhere along the path of being your, in a sense, karma, your Saturnian karma incarnate, as well as Mercury, then, just it's really, really uncanny. They're actually making a lot of noise. Can you hear that? Yeah. Okay. They get really excited.
So. I mean, AI can probably work on some of that when I put the filters on.
Okay. Can you edit out if I pause, or if I because I was going to try to mute it and just talk to them for a second. Can you edit out? Because I just need to bring their awareness to the fact that
actually I can stop recording.
Okay. Can you do?
Yeah, I can.
Mercury.
Okay. Mercury retrograde. Playing his tricks. That's when my conclusion is that's when Hermes likes to play tricks.
Yeah, right.
And which another thing that came up talking to Harper, I started talking about, he brought up actually, because he read a series of graphic novels on Greek myth a year ago or so. Really cool series on each of the gods. Like it's just like a kind of like loosely telling the story in a graphic novel kind of way of the gods. Yeah. So he's aware of a lot of the Greek stuff because of that.
Yeah. Alex is interested in that too. My 10-year-old is actually interested. Yeah. Yeah.
So with the whole Mercury, I brought up Mercury retrograde and how the planet's going backwards. And he's like, oh yeah. Like when Hermes stole the cattle. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, but he didn't walk backwards. He put his sandals on backwards, but I had never put that together. Right. With Mercury retrograde. And then in the myth of Hermes, he steals Apollo's cattle but he puts sandals on and he puts them on backwards, so it looks like he's walking in the opposite direction. That whole thing doesn't really make any sense to me, because how do you put sandals on backwards? But that's myth, right? It doesn't
You can
have
do
to
it.
make sense.
Yeah, my 7-year-old did it the other day and walked around. So you can do it. But
Put
it's yeah, she put her shoes on backwards and was walking around in them, which was funny because yeah, I didn't even make that connection until just now. And she's got Gemini rising at like 9 degrees. But anyway, yeah, that's
Really?
funny. Yeah, she does. So, and yeah, that idea of what, like with Mercury retrograde, it appearing to move backwards, but not actually, is a little
Yeah.
parallel to that idea of Hermes having the
Right.
shoes on
Yeah.
backwards.
And
Yeah.
and then the whole idea also of Mercury being the only planet that's exalted in a sign that he rules. Remember,
Uh-huh.
we
Uh-huh.
that was covered in that came up in class the other night.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And you mentioned that about Mercury or about Hermes and the putting the shoes on and the cattle and that story. Yeah, that story there.
Yep. Yeah. So what is undone dishes and noodles in the sink have to do with the radius of the Earth and the Moon and factorial 7, and
Mm,
I don't
yeah.
know, but it's
Well, it's interesting though because it definitely speaks to the polarity of Mercury Jupiter and particularly Virgo Pisces because the two are they are and where the nodes are at 180 degrees apart right now, that you get to the mystical the uh through the linguistic or through the mathematical, that the mysticism and the rational world are ultimately not that far apart, that
right.
something so mundane could have led you to something that was such a
Yeah.
cosmic
Yeah.
wonder, cosmic insight, you know
Yeah.
um
I was sitting there like, am I supposed to like just give you a pass and you can have your screens back? Like, and it's like I'm
yeah.
sitting there, and it was literally like I'm sitting there trying to punish Mercury.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
Hermes is sitting at the table with me, and I'm like, and I'm trying to hold him accountable.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was like that, like the trickery was maybe a little bit of the trick was on you, kind of like,
Oh yeah, I would say the whole trick is on me.
and he
I
was in
mean,
a way he was the hermetic teacher in a
yep.
in a sense. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're
he's like,
like,
yeah, divide that by 2, Dad, and I'm like, why? Oh, just do it. You'll understand in a minute. And then, you know, oh, my bad, Hermes. You can have your screens, man.
yeah, you're like,
My bad. I thought you were my son. I didn't. I just thought I was dealing with a human child who needed disciplining. Obviously, I don't understand. You
right,
know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You've been humbled.
You're here to teach me, so I just need to just let you do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny. That's true though. I mean, it's interesting, especially with like again, South Node being where you're having to if South Node is in a way stripping away of the ego and the desires of the North, the desires of the North Node. Like I was reading about how South Node aspects in synastry can be places where the ego is like challenged because it gets stripped away of the false self. And what the South Node is in essence like what's left after you strip the ego away, and in a way the humbling aspect of what you had going on this morning was like, yeah, okay, my bad. I didn't I thought that I was the master of the situation, but I just kind of got schooled by the universe. And you know
Mm.
how old is he?
12.
12. Yeah, my
Yeah,
12-year old.
I was trying to look at where his south node is, and I
Hmm.
have I think, yeah, that's him. His south node is in Taurus.
Mm-hmm. Early.
Yep. It looks like 16 degrees.
Okay. And your older son has the North Node in Taurus, doesn't he? Yeah. Yeah. I had that yesterday when I was having a hard time. There's trickery at play with what I think I know and what I know and how I find what I know and express what I think I know. It's it's been interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was just reading, or no, it was in a podcast I was listening to. Someone was talking about how, like, with sun sign, how like
hmm
how after you get deep into astrology, you almost turn your nose up at just sun sign astrology, because like,
yeah. Yeah.
which is understandable because everybody knows it and it's like stereotypical, and it's
hmm
like, damn it, it just happens to be really true too. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that and that's what this astrologer like was saying. And he's an old school astrologer, theosophist, written books, like,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just like, yeah, if you I got that way, early on, in when you get deep into astrology and you realize how complicated it is, and how many how much there is to it. It's not just the sun sign, but like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
hmm
but you can know a lot about somebody just based on their sun.
Yeah, that's true. You can. Yeah. Yeah, you can. I had that image of you. I was laughing about that too because, almost like from a different perspective of you're doing the Virgo thing. I have a brother that I think I've mentioned has quite a bit of Virgo, and that would have been something he did, like, okay, what do you need to confess? And the noodle, like, we're around the order of the of the home or whatever, and it just made me think of him, my brother Tim. But then how funny and how fast it moved into your Aquarian nature, because all of a sudden, like, the mad scientist is like, wait a minute, and then you've got to like go to your astrology books, and it's like you went into from Virgo into like Aquarian sun of like,
Yeah.
kind of the mad hatter who's like, okay, wait a minute, I've got to put the, this
Mercury
model.
too, though, right? Because I have Mercury sun conjunct in Aquarius.
Yeah, in the ninth, right? So yeah, it's like I've got to tie this concept in with, and it's like your kids, I'm sure they know you by now, so they're not looking at it from an outsider point of view like I am, which is just like, oh
Comical.
wow, I see that Aquarian sun really really hard right now, but yeah, yeah,
Well,
so
I just like just use it as a teaching experience, like an opportunity to
mm,
to teach. And so it's not that I'm trying to like cram astrology down my kids' throat.
no, but
It's
you were
just,
making connections within your own mind, right? And
well, it didn't even start. It didn't even. I was just ruminating on time and trying
hmm
to get him to understand how 2 minutes of his time would have kept him from having to pay 10,078 minutes worth of his time
right,
in recompense.
right,
you know,
yeah,
and that's it. I wasn't trying to go into astrology or
yeah,
great cycles of time or
yeah,
the fact that the radius of the moon and earth is factorial 7 and 5,040 miles, and 5,040 happens to be half, which
hmm
that's another thing I didn't mention,
hmm
is 10,080 divided by 2 is 5,040, which means 7 days divided by 2
hmm
equals factorial 7.
yeah,
That's Wednesday. Whose day is
uh,
Wednesday?
uh-huh, uh-huh, huh,
Hermes. That's
uh-huh,
Mercury.
yeah,
Wednesday is
yeah,
Hermes day, Mercury day.
right, yeah. Which incidentally, apparently Chiron is associated with the number seven as well. Um, seven times seven, and I'll have
It'd
to
be
go back and
49. Yeah, his orbital period is 50, I think 50.1 years, so that may be.
maybe where it's coming from. Yeah,
Yeah.
with the breakdown of seven, that would make sense. Yeah, but it was 7 and 7, and I thought, well, isn't that interesting with like 7 of wands, and but yeah, the number seven with this too is
But just
interesting.
the amount of Hermes Mercury in that little anecdote
Yeah.
during a Mercury retrograde
uh
is phenomenal,
And the moon, right? The moon
is
was
associated.
in there too,
Yeah.
right? In Leo. So,
Well,
and
not only that, but Mercury, Hermes in the Egyptian, right, is Anubis,
mm,
Thoth.
hmm
He's
hmm
a moon god.
yeah, yeah, right.
At least Thoth is, right? There's that mercurial, the what was Jung's name for it? The combination of the, like, the child of the earth and the sun, Mercurius.
Mercurius. Okay.
Yeah, he's like a common. That's like a sun. Well, but it's really a sun, earth, moon child. Is Mercury, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the combination of the 3. Mm-hmm.
So here with the Earth, I don't know. The whole thing's fascinating to me. And the thing is, with these synchronicities, so often you're like, what does it mean, though? I mean,
Yeah, right.
doesn't.
Which, yeah. And it's like, well, on one hand, more could be revealed because it's, I think of it in a way like a hit that, like you said, it was almost like a download where you get this piece of information and you don't immediately know how it fits or where it fits. But then over time, it does start to reveal itself more. Or it could just be a mercurial trick, like what came up in the eighth house discussion the other night. I think Mercury came up, and it was like a lot of the times you're chasing this thing that you're, it's this elusive because you know that it has meaning, you can feel it, but then ultimately it could just be a weird detour that, is a trick of Mercury, a game, that Mercury's
Yep.
playing that doesn't have a greater significance. Does it need
But
to because it's Mercury, not Jupiter?
yeah, but in this case, it's like all about Mercury too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the things that are coming up from
Mm-hmm.
this little anecdote of mine, they're
Mm-hmm.
all mercurial. I'm
Mm-hmm.
having a hard time. Mercurial. They're
Mm-hmm.
all
Yeah.
about Mercury Hermes. And it's
Yeah.
just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the of all that though, honestly, the thing that really blew my mind was his Mercury is exactly conjunct my ascendant, like to the minute. You would have to
Wow.
look at the seconds to like it would be seconds off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What does that
So,
mean?
yeah. And as your ascendant and you said where is his Mercury? Is in the 10th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is
Um,
conjunct his MC too. It's like his MC 740, I think.
uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
7 degrees 27.
Mm.
So his Mercury's less than a degree from his medium Caeli.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I would say he's definitely a mirror. Just looking at the synastry alone, he's an interesting mirror, as different being a Taurus and,
Right.
even though it's not a exact square, but it's
Right.
still very different energy, but he also mirrors you really strongly, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, and that's one of the reasons why there's 2 reasons why we clash so often, right? One is because he is such a good mirror. So
Mm-hmm.
like he it's like he's a perfect what's it called? He catches my projections
Mm-hmm. Yes.
perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then but then the other thing is that, right, his sun Mars conjunction is square by whole sign, my
Uh-huh.
sun Mercury.
Right. Mm-hmm.
um or another way of looking at that is my K2 is 29 degrees Aquarius, and his sun is 2854, so 29. So like
Mm-hmm.
his sun is conjunct my K2,
Mm-hmm.
and as is his Mars, which Mars is 21 degrees Taurus. So his Mars is like, 8 degrees away, but still
Wait,
that's
what is conjunct your K2?
his sun Mars conjunction. His sun's sitting right on my K2.
Did you have
Oh,
K2
wait.
in
No, yeah, never
okay.
mind. It's
Okay. I was
square.
like
It's not
square.
conjunct.
Okay.
It's square exactly.
Okay.
Phew.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
about that.
Okay. Oh no, that's okay. I
Which
was
is
like, wait.
which
Yeah.
is really would explain the friction more anyway, right? The square
Uh-huh.
as opposed to a conjunction,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah, cross purposes there for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of and until this morning, like, I never really, and like for instance, like I'm looking now, like Saturn is in Scorpio. That's my sixth
Mm-hmm.
house. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
like his Saturn's like teaching me how to be Saturn in
Yeah.
doing dishes. That's pretty
Uh-huh.
sixth house.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that Mercury on your dignified Mercury on your ascendant, and that is just I almost see you guys like doing ritual magic together or doing alchemy together or
Yeah.
something, down like I don't know, but there seems like there's a strong connection for you to give him some kind of legacy of this alchemical kind of astrological magical domain or realm that you are in, that there could be yeah, just like a transfer of a lot of skills, or even like working together in some way.
Well, he has a fifth house Pluto as well, but his Pluto's in Capricorn,
Mm-hmm.
which is in my eighth house. So his
Yeah.
Pluto transposes to my eighth
Mm-hmm.
with, my fifth house Libra Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just looking at the mercurial signature in his chart,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Virgo rising, Moon conjunct the ascendant, right?
Mm-hmm.
MC, Mercury, Chiron, Venus, Jupiter in the 10th house, Gemini. I mean, this kid
Yeah.
is Mercury. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
lot of Mercury, and his Mercury conjunct his MC on top of
Mm-hmm.
all that.
Mm-hmm.
So chart ruling his moon, you
Mm-hmm.
know, ruling his Jupiter, his Venus, and
Do you
his
want me to,
Chiron.
do you want me to put his chart up?
Um, I mean, I guess you can. No, that's all right, because I can put it up.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. If you
or
wanna.
yeah, because I just know from podcasts we've done in the past, like a lot of times the chart will get put up and then it'll stay up, and then I end up having to take that chart down because
Uh,
it just stays up and it's just a chart for like an hour, and we're not even talking about it. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. 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 Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
like, I would rather you just send me the chart and then I'll just stick it up there for like 30 seconds or something.
Okay.
That
Gotcha.
probably would be better.
Yeah.
And also, I think, talking about his chart specifically,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm.
Covered it, but I have, I've been inspired by the group classes that, we've gone to a couple times now, and trying to reconcile the house system with the tropical, the tropical Vedic. That's especially when it comes to like timing and dashas, because like the north node south node connection is so, it goes so deep as far as to try to understand anything about astrology in general, but especially Vedic astrology, which is where the nodes come from. That's, I mean, it goes back. Vedic astrology uses the nodes very heavily. And I don't know with like Hellenistic, and do you know if the nodes were used extensively in a way that was not influenced by um
Well, interesting. This comes up because in reading um,
okay.
myths
Cool.
and symbols of Vedic astrology.
Awesome. This is the one that I found this one maybe a year and a half ago, Paths of Light.
Uh-huh.
And um, so one of my Kundalini yoga teachers that also practices Vedic astrology recommended this one, and it's really interesting. And there's some good stuff about Rahu Ketu in there. Maybe we'll touch on too.
So
But so
yeah, you were asking about uh, the history,
yeah.
and in the preface to this, talks about the history a little bit, he's let me see if I can find it, because
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
like, that's not what Nick Campion said.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
contrary to, he was talking about the history.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
God,
while you look for that, I could share
yeah.
something, and then don't feel like you have to listen too carefully, because I know you'll be looking at that. But um, to find that. But what really struck me and I know you've listened to it too now, was the discussion in the episode with Gemini Brett and Frank Solzano, and how the creation myth, basically, or the genesis of Rahu Ketu, or the story of how it came about. And the mythology involves the story of the churning milk. And
Hmm.
I came across something that was interesting in one of Jung's volumes, collected works volumes. And as almost like a pretext for talking about Rahu and Ketu, I think it could be an interesting thing to read, because part of the whole hullabaloo about the way that Rahu and Ketu came about, where where they were, when they were created, had to do with the search for the nectar of immortality, right? So the Amrita, and immortality. So uh, it, I accidentally, and this is again very, very much Mercury retrograde, but I accidentally came across the passage that talks about this, that where Jung talks about this. Um, so I don't know. Did you find what you were looking for? And because I can read that later.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I found it. You go ahead and read it though, because we were just talking about the history of the of the nodes and whether or not and then that got me onto this. But you just continue. Go ahead. I found it. We can go back to it.
Okay.
All
right. I can't find it.
Okay, well, I'll read this then. So yeah, this is
I had it. I swear to you, I just had it. Like, I literally just had it. I'm like, Mercury. Okay.
Oh my God, this is definitely the name of this episode, Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
Or Hermes tricks or something. So this is David Frawley.
Okay.
And this is the editor's forward to this book, Myths and Symbols of Vedic Astrology.
Okay.
So he's talking about the history, and he says, according to modern ideas of history, we consider that astrology was developed first in Babylonia and then refined by the Greeks, and that the Hindus got their astrology from these two sources. While a few Greek terms do occur in medieval Hindu astrological books, this is scarcely enough grounds to derive the Eastern system from the West. Hindu influences can also be traced in much of Greek thought as well, particularly among the Greek mystics and mystery religions like Pythagoras, which groups were also famous for their astrological knowledge. We also observe that Hindu astrology is more complex and often very different from the Greek, nor does the Vedic tradition concur with a Western origin for its knowledge. Vedic astrologers relate their knowledge to their own tradition, which speaks of equinoctial points of great antiquity to support their claim. Vedic astrology, unlike Western astrology, figures the precession of the zodiac into its calculation, which in itself suggests a great antiquity for the system, which I remember reading in Nick Campion's history of Western astrology that the Vedic astrologers were not even aware of precession of the equinoxes, and that they got that information from the Greeks.
Yeah.
Then they disagreed with the Ayanamsa, however you say that word, which is the difference between the tropical and sidereal zodiacs.
Right. Okay.
They disagreed with the Greeks on the calculations of that. So there are different calculations for precession, essentially.
Okay.
But that right there is, that's one thing I would take based on my reading of Nick Campion. And of course, this was written in 1990 as well. So, a lot of things, this is like just before Project Hindsight, right?
Right.
But then that information is that Project Hindsight's information is mostly going to be Latin and Greek texts, right? That they're translating.
Yeah.
Is there much going on like Persian, Arabian, like that tech? Those texts were sort of, we had, right? But before Project Hindsight was specifically like Greek translations and Latin translations of text, right?
Yeah, I think it included some Persian.
Did it?
I believe so. Yeah.
So then,
but definitely the Greek as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have stopped and took issue with the other thing I read. There was another. Anyway, let me just finish this paragraph.
Yeah.
So Vedic astrologers relate their knowledge to their own tradition, which speaks of equinoctial positions of great antiquity to support their claim. Vedic astrology, unlike Western astrology, figures the precession of the zodiacs into its calculation, which in itself suggests a great antiquity for the system. As we move toward the age of Aquarius today, we may appreciate that different Vedic texts speak of the ages of Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer by relating the equinox to the asterisms that mark the beginning of these signs. Taking astrological knowledge back at least 6,000 BC. In this regard, the Vedic may be the oldest astrological system in the world and the source of all ancient systems of astrology. That's a pretty big claim.
Yeah.
And 6,000 BC?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense though. To me that, yeah, because it's got some of the oldest, like the Vedas and, are some of the oldest scriptural texts that we have recorded. Yeah. So like it makes
I
sense
think,
that it. Mhm.
and also though, one of the things I think is that the Vedic astrology was not horoscopic before Hellenistic.
Right.
I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that's the part where it's like there
They
was no
gave,
horoscopic astrology in a Vedic
Mhm.
tradition before
So
the
they gave that
Hellenistic.
to the Greeks in a sense, through to
No, no,
the Hellenistic.
the Greeks would have
The,
given that to
the
the
right.
yeah,
Yeah. To the
the
Indian.
horoscopic
Mhm.
thing,
Right. Right.
But the astrology though, like, see, because like even in like like Babylon,
Uh huh.
it
Uh huh.
wasn't horoscopic; it was just mundane.
Yeah.
Their astrology was not horoscopic, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it became that over like around 400 like the first horoscope's like 400. It's around 400 BC
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from Babylon,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Right.
it was all about divination, using the planets for like divination in mundane matters that would pertain to like the king
Mm-hmm.
and war and plagues and like world things. Not, it didn't apply to individuals.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So in that sense, what I'm saying is that the Vedic astrology could be as old in that sense, right? But in the sense of horoscopic astrology, I think that it's probably the case that that is the Hellenistic influence,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that, right? Because Mesopotamian or Babylonian, Egyptian, and Hellenistic came together, and that's when the horoscopic astrology was created. All three of those things came together and created horoscopic, right? Like the decanates, that was Egyptian,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then like the zodiac, of course, they had 18 signs. The Babylons, the
Mm-hmm.
Babylonians, there were 16 signs of the zodiac, but they had the concept of the zodiac. Whereas the Egyptians, they just had decanates. They had 36 decanates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Greeks came along. Alexander the Great did his conquest, came along, and then combined the Babylonian, Egyptian with the Greek, which was very heavily influenced by Vedic, because
Yeah.
it's the Indo-Aryan, civilization that, like, Sanskrit was like the mother language, right? That moved into Europe with our
Yes.
with man's, humankind's movements across
Right.
the surface of the earth, kind of thing.
Yeah. And so from the Vedic history comes like the tantric and the yogic astrology, which was around, which included Ketu and Rahu and the
Nakshatras.
right,
That's
right.
very Indian, and that in that sense, the nakshatras, and I don't know a whole lot of, I know next to nothing about that
Mm-hmm.
either, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
system, and like I plan on learning about it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
right
And
now I
so
can't speak to it.
right. And some of my exposure to Vedic astrology has come through the Kundalini yoga and, yogic practices that, I mean, that was my entry point into Vedic astrology and kind of what got me interested in that. And what is interesting is that the first astrology mentor that I had wrote a book on the nodes, David Rayleigh. And so I was aware of North and South Node from a modern, psychological. I mean, he integrated different, approaches, but they were modern. So I had an awareness of the nodes and used the nodes, but then in my journey through, kind of my spiritual discipline of learning and teaching Kundalini yoga and sort of bridging that with astrology, that was where it was like, okay, well, at this point, I'm going to need to understand or go deeper into the Vedic astrology. And so Ketu and Rahu have a different, as we've discussed recently and has come up recently, that even in that creation story or the myth around them, that idea of like the churning of karma, in its connection to there's a term pramanta, which is kind of it's what you get with Rahu and Ketu and that churning of inner fire that leads to spiritual realization. That is where I guess I'll read the Jung quote, because he was sort of throwing back to or referencing some of that ancient idea of Pramantha as being a fire stick, which is probably going to be of interest, especially with this idea of,
Vesta.
yeah, and flaming phalluses, so,
Yeah.
but that friction as a tool, like, because part of the whole history of like the Vedic and Indian tradition was that they did a lot of like fire rituals. And so the symbol of, in a Vedic astrological context, the symbol of karmic churning, which is what happens that ends up, being how Rahu and Ketu come to be, right? Because they're churning from the bottom of the sea. And that's what they talk about. Jim and I, Brett, and Frank Solzano were talking about in their recent discussion. But that symbol of fire as the key is what segues with the with Carl Jung's in Symbols of Transformation. So in Carl Jung's Symbols of Transformation, Volume 5 of his collected works, he talks about the transformation of libido, and in that he said, "Oh my God." Every time I go off of my page to go to something else, it disappears, Aaron. I'm not supposed to read it or something. I don't
No,
think I'm
it's
supposed
just
to read it.
Mercury's retrograde. I mean, that's like he's just
Oh my
that's
God.
what he does.
Okay, I
It's
think
like, why do you have to be so stereotypical? But
yeah, I
it's
think
like sun sign shit. It's true.
but see, I'm not fast enough to I'm not fast enough to outsmart Mercury, even though I have
You
Mercury
can't
conjunct my
outsmart you.
Mars.
That would be hubris to even try to outsmart
Well, maybe
Mercury.
that's where the problem comes in. Maybe that's why I keep like getting my ass kicked by Mercury.
No, you're just trying to read a thing to share on a podcast. You're not trying to outsmart Mercury.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, that's where maybe that I need the ego check then, because I think I can or something. But anyway, I'm gonna find it because yeah, it's gonna happen. Okay.
so, oh, did you find it? Because I
Yeah,
can.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So this idea of the nectar of immortality that they're fighting over, right? The demons and the gods, and they're fighting over that Amrita, which is that nectar of immortality. Um, Jung ties it in with this idea of fire, and I'm quitting. Okay, so I give up. I'm fired. Okay, so I'm just going to read you this little paragraph here, if it'll stay put long enough for me to do that. Um, okay, so it talks about in Agni, right, is the sacrificial flame, which ties in with like Promethean fire too, right? The sacrificer and the sacrificed. Soma and fire are identical in Vedic literature. And I was going to ask you if you have any, like, and this is something maybe to come back to, but I wondered if you had any thoughts on Soma. But anyway, in Vedic literature, Soma and fire are identical. This is Jung now that I'm quoting, okay? The ancient Hindus saw fire both as a symbol of Agni and as an emanation of the inner libido fire. And for them, the same psychic dynamism was at work in the intoxicating drink, fire water. Um, so Soma, Agni as rain and fire. And the Vedic definition of Soma was seminal fluid. And so what really ties this idea together for me is he says Soma is also the nourishing drink. Its mythological characteristics coincide with those of fire. And so both are united in Agni. And in yoga, like in yogic practices, you're really igniting the Agni. And the idea of like Ida and Pingala, which are like the two energies that work in the channels, through the central channel, that is representative of Rahu and Ketu. The drink of immortality, Amrita, was stirred by the Hindu gods like the fire. So, and then he goes on to talk a little bit about Pramantha, which is the churning. But that idea of immortality, the story, the myth story of Rahu and Ketu makes me think a lot about, well, what is Amrita? And then, Jung was kind of trying to, I think, speak to that idea of why is Rahu Ketu, and he wasn't talking about it in the context of Rahu Ketu, but why is Rahu Ketu connected to this idea of immortality or the nourishing drink, or what it might mean to experience immortality, and obviously represented in seminal fluid, like that kind of makes sense, because
which the seminal fluid is the soma.
Mhm.
So then, what was the fire side of that, or what was the
Agni
is that like the feminine? Is this a polarity, like a feminine, like a masculine feminine, or a positive negative polarity situation we're dealing with? Because anytime there's two, that's what I I go to that, to the polarities.
Yeah, well, there it is, because it's like Surya and Chandra. It's sun moon at its most foundational. And
but what's the opposite of the Soma then in the myth here, this telling? What is there a fluid that's like that's
like a corresponding,
because you were saying fire, I heard like there was a fire that was like the other side of that.
Yeah,
and I know I just read the feminine is in Vedic is kind of conceived of like a creative impulse, like a fire impulse.
Which one?
In Vedic, like in Vedic. Well, in this book I'm reading with it, because I don't know a whole lot about Vedic myth. I'm just now starting to read about it. So
yeah, but what were you that last point you made? I just missed the first part of what you said. That
the feminine side of the equation is like they see it as like a creative impulse.
They see what as a creative impulse?
Like whereas when you think of like yin and yang, for instance, like the yin is more of a receiving container. Right, yeah. It's more of a receiving impulse and not so much of a creative, like outflowing, impulse.
Yeah.
Like a fire. I think of fire is like when you think of astrology and you think of the positive polarities, air and fire that's masculine, right? And then because it's positive polarity, and then the water and earth is negative polarity, and that's feminine.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think, absolutely. There is that especially with Rahu and Ketu, like Rahu would correspond to Ida, which would be like the sun, the masculine, I would think fire would correspond with Rahu and Ida, because it's the, it's the craving. Now I don't know if like in Jung's passage, if he was corresponding that directly, but then Pingala, Ketu, the south node, would be connected to Pingala, which is also a channel. It's one of the nadis, like the main nadis or the main energy channels, which is associated with like Chandra or the moon. And I mean, they're both associated with the moon, right? But like you've got the sun moon, connection there. And that, so I think you would get Pingala or the south node as the more receptive energy with that. And that, ultimately there's a feeling of needing to find the central channel between those two nadis, between like Rahu and Ketu or Ida and Pingala. You'd have to, I mean, the whole idea or the whole purpose of like yogic pranayam, or like physically working with a yoga, your body with yogic practice and discipline, is to find the Shushmana, or like the central channel, to get to Shunya, stillness, and then deeper layers of like Sunya, or deeper layers of listening, which is deeply connected to like the south node and the spiritual purposes of the south node, of like stripping the ego and the material desires out of, the soul of the individual. Or it's like, getting rid of, not that we're not trying to be in one polarity or the other. And I think, that's
would Soma be associated with, is it Ida?
Soma, I don't know a lot about Soma, and I think from that passage, I don't know if he's making a direct correspondence.
So here's the thing though, you mentioned it, right? Like Rahu and Ketu are lunar.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're not talking about masculine. If we're talking about, but however, not really, right? Because it can be like, it's like, the way we see the lunar issue in astrology is that it's like, that's feminine. Well, at least in times, like maybe that's changing now, but lunar issues that's usually that's associated with women, like just for no other reason than the cycle, like your menstrual cycle, right?
Yeah, but we wouldn't have the nodes, because if they're shadow nodes so if I'm understanding it correctly, like we wouldn't even have nodes if it weren't for the moon's orbit as it crosses the sun's apparent path. Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
ecliptic.
there you go. So then the sun is like,
It's really Earth, Moon, Sun. Like the node, that's the thing, right?
uh-huh,
The lunar nodes. It's really about Earth, Moon, and Sun because
right.
and it's worked into. You hear it, and I heard Gemini Brett mention this. Like the ecliptic,
Mm-hmm.
it's the ecliptic because that's where eclipses would happen
Yeah.
on the ecliptic, but
Right.
also like with the nodes, the lunar nodes, right? So the moon, the earth, and the sun come together at these 2 points.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
so we call them, it's like they're lunar nodes, but it's not just the moon we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the moon, the earth, and the sun all together as a system.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know like like in the yogic tradition and the Vedic tradition, even pretty far back, Ida, which is the sun energy or the sun nadi, the sun channel, it is associated with Rahu. So, yeah, I mean that's a really interesting point though
Well,
because
that's where the sun is eclipsed, right? At the north
mhm,
node. That's when there's
right,
a solar eclipse. And then the
okay,
south node is where you have a lunar eclipse.
right, okay. I always get those like confused, but yeah, okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. So it's like if the sun, and it makes sense too, because if Rahu is like the excessive planet that where we chase worldly pleasures or we chase the, kind of the ego, and the sun is more of that
Yep.
conscious energy, then there's that idea of like the power that can be negative when you have too much excessive like sun energy or too much um I would even say like Agni, but I don't want to make a direct connection because I'm not sure, how that fits in. But like if there's, yeah, so there are definitely, but both nodes are representative of more subtle, very much more subtle psychic energies that are not planetary, right? So it's not, Rahu isn't the sun. And we're working with like very subtle energies here. But, they're two sides of a snake. So and even that idea that they talked about that Jim and I, Brett and Frank talked about was that like the idea of poison and the poison of the snake and how that gets dispersed or, it's like, are we dealing with malefic energy with the nodes or are we dealing with something where one is, quote, easy and one's difficult? They're both considered to be malefic in a sense, right? Um,
Well, they're both necessary. I was
mm,
actually, this conversation I was having with Harper this morning went into this
mm,
territory because Hades came up. Oh,
mm,
yeah. I was talking about Mercury's role or Hermes' role as a psychopomp.
mhm,
He's,
mhm,
he's got those two natures. He's the trickster and he's the psychopomp. And like as the trickster, he gets to play games and have a good time and just whatever to amuse himself. Like it's like whatever. He's got to deliver a message, right? But in the meantime, he's gonna fuck with you. But his role as a psychopomp
mm.
is not trifling. Like he's not playing around. He's
uh,
taking you to Hades. Like
right.
he's taking your soul to the
Mhm,
underworld.
mhm,
That's not, he's not playing around. Like he's not the Hermes in that mode is not a trickster, right?
right.
He's a psychopomp in that
Yeah,
mode.
yeah, yeah.
And so that brought up the how like Hades is in Christianity, at least Protestantism, right? It became hell, which is really Tartarus in the Greek, which
Mhm,
was beneath Hades. But like it's like the conception of hell in Christianity became just Hades became Tartarus. And
mhm,
so the Catholics, like they kept purgatory, which would be like
mhm,
Hades, right?
mhm,
And then
mhm,
hell would be Tartarus. But like
mhm,
the way it's maybe this is just like the more Protestant fundamentalist evangelical southern version kind of Christianity is like there's hellfire, hell and
yeah.
hellfire and eternal damnation, and like Pan became Satan and the devil, and like there's it's just good and bad. But like
Mm,
that's not really so much what it is, right? Because Hades is not bad. It's just
mhm,
where our souls go for a
mhm,
while after
mhm.
this life,
Right. Yeah. No, I think
like
that's,
purgatory in
yeah,
between
that's
incarnations.
right. No, I think that's like a really good point too, because to kind of tie that in with your original statement of they're not necessarily malefic, they're necessary. There's like the malefic nature of Rahu and Ketu is more connected to where we are grasping at something, like with Rahu, where we're like grasping at something that's going to give us like worldly pleasure or satisfaction, or, prestige, or, make us happy. So it's like, uh, if you're coming from like a spiritual perspective with that, we want to, as humans, we want to push away what makes us feel unhappy and really cling to what makes us happy. And, where your example of Hades comes in too, it's like, there are no riches unless you're willing to kind of go to hell, and or at least no riches that you can, you can't get certain things except if you're willing to go to the underworld. And so the deeper wisdom that comes into play beyond happiness, and we were talking about this in the car, the other day, like, a couple weeks ago or whatever, and it's like that idea of what is going to give us over time an experience of a deeper kind of happiness. The North Node can't necessarily give that to you. What can is Ketu's.